good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Namaste and a very warm welcome to all of you to the Blub World Web Talks 205th episode. In the last 204 episodes, we have talked to, interacted with nearly 3,000 plus school leaders on this very platform, where they have shared their ideas, opinions, innovations, and what all new are they doing in the education space. तो नमस्कार, आप सभी का स्वागत है ब्लब वर्ल्ड वेब टॉक्स के 205वें एपिसोड में। पिछले 204 एपिसोड में हमने करीबन 3,000 से ज्यादा शिक्षाविदों से ये जानने की कोशिश की कि वो शिक्षा को कैसे बदल रहे हैं और शिक्षा उन्हें कैसे बदल रही है। तो आज का जो अगला 1 घंटा आप हमारे साथ में है, उसमें हम आपसे जानने की कोशिश करेंगे, व्हाट डू यू थिंक इज द पावर दैट लाइज विद इन अ टीनेजर, एंड क्या हम उसे एक बहुत बड़ा जीवन का डिसीजन खुद करने दे सकते हैं। So do we really believe in the kind of power, the knowledge and intelligence and the wisdom that a teenager has? And can we give them the power to take a very important decision of their life, that can they decide what they want to learn? And are we as adults, as educators, as people who are the custodians of education, ready to accept their decision and then follow that in the education ecosystem? So we'll be today talking about, can we let teens decide their own syllabus, or what typically is known in the alternate education circles as self-designed learning, or learning that we decide and design, and how do we want to do it. Before we start the session, just some ground rules. So the Blub World Web Talks is a timed platform. So once your speaking time is over, you might get muted. If you get muted, please don't get offended. It's just to keep the activity crisp and enjoyable for everyone. Secondly, it's a bilingual platform, so you can use English or Hindi, any of these 2 languages. But please don't use a third one because I might not get it. बड़ा आसान सा कारण जिस वजह से हम हिंदी या अंग्रेजी दोनों को बराबर वेटेज देते हैं, उसका सिंपल सा कारण यही है कि भाषा जो है वो कभी भी ज्ञान का पैमाना नहीं होता। यू कैन नेवर मेजर नॉलेज और इंटेलिजेंस और विजडम विद द लैंग्वेज दैट यू यूज। भाषा की अपनी इज्जत है, लेकिन भाषा को भाषा रहने देना चाहिए, भावना में तब्दील नहीं होने देना चाहिए, नहीं तो चैलेंज हो जाता है। So thank you so much everyone once again for joining us today. Let's start this session of the Blub World Web Talks 205th episode. Let's discuss, can we let teenagers decide their own syllabus? So let me invite the first speaker for today to initiate the session. A very warm welcome to Ms. Sailaja Vittaldev, the principal of Silver Oaks International School from Bangalore, Karnataka. Sailaja ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
Thank you, Daksh, for having me for this interesting topic. So I feel that yes, they can be involved in coming up with their expectations for the syllabus. I feel voice, choice, ownership. When you allow them to express their interest, and when you give them opportunities to select, and then definitely ownership comes. So when you are considering, like we have done during last year, we have asked few students, what do they want for the coming academic year? So when we discussed, they have given certain events as well as the curriculum, what they expect, how engaging it should be is what students have spoken. So I feel they can be involved. Only thing is, as a system, we need to give them what is the learner outcome, what should be the success criteria, and what will be the syllabus expectations. When you give these kind of set guidelines, that will give them a defined path for them to understand. And also, India is vast country, and we have so many boards in our country. Each board has certain expectations, and every board is unique in their own way. So when we give them certain guidelines that this board is like this, and this is what is the expectation, and this is what we can do, can't do. So that's something which we need to, as an adult, we need to give them that direction. And when you engage them meaningfully, they will come up with certain innovative ideas which can be implemented, that can be benefited to the larger community. So how we can do it is something is a $100 million question, how effectively we can do. But probably in the school scenario, when we ask them, this is what is the expected outcome for this coming academic year. How do you want us to teach? What is that you are expecting in this? What is your role? What is school role? What is teacher's role? If all 3 of us have a open discussion, I think that will invite a lot of deliberation, as well as understand each other better, so that ownership comes from the student. Ultimately, what we want is own voice, choice, ownership from the students. That's how I limit myself. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sailaja. So I'll try to take some of the important points ahead in the discussion. So you started with, I think, three very important phrases, that voice, choice, and ownership. ये तीन चीजें बहुत ज्यादा critical हैं when we talk of freedom and when we talk of freedom giving to the teenagers. उनके पास बोलने के लिए आवाज हो, डिसीजन उनका हो, चॉइस हो, और अगर वो चॉइस कर लें तो उसके circumstances पे उनकी ownership हो. They must take the onus for whatever happens out of after it. I think a very important aspect that you also got into the discussion is that how effectively are we able to give this freedom? Would it be a controlled atmosphere? Will it be an open atmosphere, or we'll give some kind of a contained freedom which has some kind of wisdom boundaries, but there is still freedom to decide and choose things. So thank you so much, ma'am. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Mrs. Poornima Menon, the principal of Anand Vidya Vihar from Vadodara, Gujarat. Poornima, ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes, and a very warm welcome.
Good evening to all of you. From what Sailaja ma'am spoke, I really like that point. Only thing is that I have a little different opinion here. The very fact that we deliberate today, we are discussing on a topic that can teens decide on the syllabus. So we presume here the syllabus is, it's a very general term, but we presume that it's academic syllabus that we are talking about. And since it is not being dealt by children, so we are deliberating on it today. Secondly, the word decide, which means that decision part, there was something to it, which is why that aspect was never left to them. All right, so we need to think about that. Third, that's also interesting. Why teenagers only? Why not students? Which means there is a certain amount of maturity we have assigned to that age group. That is why we're discussing on that topic today. So now let's understand why when we talk about a syllabus, of course, they should be given choice, they should be given their voice also. But there are certain things that as adults, we will be able to foresee the future. And so we will be able to garner the best. It's like grooming. It's like how a home happens, how a home functions. Basically, the parents keep choosing the best for their children, and finally when they grow up, they're ready to fly out of the nest. So similar to that, the syllabus also should be something which is decided, maybe, or picked up, or carefully chosen by the adults. However, how to go about it and how to get assessed can be left to them. Yes, our learning outcomes, the learning outcomes that we expect from them can be decided from our end, because we know how best we can take them and where best can we take them. But how exactly to assess, how do they want to be, differentiated as, different kinds of learners, that part should be left by them, because at the end of the day, pedagogies may vary, outcomes may vary, but, children and their expectations may be multiple. So even if you can't keep the same benchmark. Now coming back to the word again, teenagers deciding to choose their syllabus. So when we talk about teenagers, that means since they are mature enough, they can at least decide what part of the syllabus they have to follow, which is why as per the NEP, they are now going to be given very soon, it will come into force, the choice of opting for certain subjects in and out. That means they can take it, they can exit, they can take up something else. They'll have that choice there, meaning the choice of the stream, choice of the subjects. But a certain part of the freedom should be left to the school or to the adults, just like it happens at home. Reason being, otherwise, they will never be able to know where they have to go. And that is where, as ma'am said, that is where I agree with you, ma'am, that the outcomes, of course, has to be very clear. Their success criteria. I would not call it success criteria, but the learning outcomes itself decides where they have to go. So they can be given that limited choice. It's like, you got on a trip and you give them money and then you leave it to them that you do what you want, but you will ultimately get back home. So I see it like that, because some things have to be resting in the hands of the adults. I rest my case here.
Thank you so much, Poornima. Some very amazing points that you've made, that why only teens? I think it's a very important and critical question कि अगर ये हम self-learning या self-designed learning का अधिकार देना भी चाहते हैं, freedom, if we want to give it to them, then why only teens? I think one aspect to this could be that by the teenage, they get some kind of an energy within them which does not get contained. And the only way to give it the right kind of channel is through freedom in some or the other way. So you have to find ways of giving them freedom and onus. I think some very important points that we can set the expectations, but the assessment, they can set the expectations, but the assessment has to be controlled by adults. Different benchmarks have to be defined with age groups and the people, so that we know that how is the community moving. So there should be some community guidelines when we let them decide their learning path. And a very important point that it will be a vision crisis if adults are completely out of the situation. The teenager would not know where they have to go. But I personally don't agree to this. But yes, this is also a very important point, that will there actually be a vision crisis? So let me invite the next speaker to share their thoughts on the topic. A very warm welcome to Mr. Neeraj Mohan Puri, the principal of Modern Sandeepni School from Pathankot, Punjab. Neeraj, over to you for the next 3 minutes and a very warm welcome.
Thank you very much. At onset, I would like to express my gratitude to Blub World for inviting me as a speaker on this wonderful platform. Great evening to erudite speakers. I would love to start that घर से निकले थे पढ़ने के लिए, जीवन में पथ पर आगे बढ़ने के लिए, कदम है एक बढ़ाया आज, एक रोज शिखर पर चढ़ने के लिए. So, my dear young learners, you are a repository of knowledge. They are dynamic, they are enthusiastic, and they have world's information with them at their tips. I would love to congratulate Blub World for taking this such a relevant topic, which has generated a lot of heat, but it needed great debating. Now, when we talk about, empowering the kids to decide upon their syllabi, I would love to put my point of view. The previous speakers have very aptly expressed their opinion. See, content, curriculum, pedagogy, and your assessments. These are the pillars of any educational system. New education policy has laid great emphasis on skilling, vocationalization of the education so as to prepare 21st century children for the competitive global world. Now, I absolutely agree that no two children are identical. They may have their unique learning styles. It may be their cognitive, their emotional, their social skills. They may be learning at different pace, at different style. But I vehemently oppose that they should be given this authority to decide the syllabi. As Poornima madam has also said, because yes, there can be a differentiated learning pattern, there could be a differentiated learning styles, they can customize the syllabus given to them. But in a competitive scenario, if there is no uniform syllabus, then it would lead to an anarchy. There will be no direction and how you are gonna measure the performance of the students. This could be a very, very big point to ponder upon. Now, for an instance, let us say in grade 10th, there are 16 mathematics chapter. So we can give autonomy to a child that they can decide out of 16 how many chapters they want to learn. But you cannot allow them that they can pick it up any chapters. Different students of grade 10th are opting for different chapters. And then how you are gonna decide that their assessment will be done on what parameters. So this is something really we need to ponder upon it. So I recommend that students can be part of decision making. They can definitely opt for the, not for the syllabus, but they can definitely opt for, you can say, streams for the subjects they want to choose so that they can plan like their growth trajectory and their trajectory. So some kind of this power authority should remain with the authorities who are competent, capable to decide the future course of action. So with this, I rest my voice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neeraj sir. Content, curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment. I think that for you, the buck stops at assessment. So whatever happens, if the assessment is not right, all of the effort of learning would not give the right kind of results. Skilling and vocation has become important with the new education policy coming into place. And your point would be that no authority to teens for decision making, but yes, authority to them for being a part of the decision making. They don't decide, but yes, they are still a part of the decision making process, because you think that it would create a competition anarchy if we give them so much of freedom. Because when they come into the real world would not be in a very good shape. So the society dynamics would change in a way that we will not be able to contain or control and give them a right kind of an atmosphere. So I think part of the decision making, but not the decision makers. So thank you so much, sir. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Mrs. Smita Dev, the Vice Principal for Edify School from Nagpur, Maharashtra. Smita ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes and a very warm welcome.
A very good evening, sir, everyone, and all the panelists over here. It's my privilege to be on this learned platform. What I feel about the topic is that today's students are creating products, they are producing blogs, they are creating sophisticated multimedia presentations, and they are beginning startups also. So what I feel that they are much more responsible and risk takers. And they are much more aware as compared to what we were in our olden days. So they are more exposed to the variety of subjects options, and they are capable to decide their own interests and their future roles also. And even the national education policy is emphasizing on multidisciplinary approach of education. It is focusing on key concepts, idea generation, application, problem solving, analytical mindset. So all these are included in our learning nowadays. Even NEP is advocating for the same. And it is empowering the students for more flexibility in the curriculum and in the course choices also. So at the same time, the student, what I feel, they have large amount of flexibility in subject selection also. So like what we can say that there is more flexibility and openness now is being provided and given to all the students, even the teenagers at the teenager level, what I feel. And here, even the teacher's role has been different as compared to olden days. We can say the traditional teachers were different, and now teacher's role is not as a teacher, but as a guide, as a facilitator. So we are having a entire shift of learning, teaching, learning experience, as well as now we should step one ahead, that for higher education, when we say that the children are capable to decide on their own, we can allow that the kids to keep their views, to keep their choices in deciding the curriculum. So they can create, so this can create new breakthroughs in the education field. And the students are much more self-regulated about their learning process, especially when they are going towards closer to the adulthood. And at the same time, I totally agree with all the other panelists also, that children, the teenager, are not ready to exactly decide what they should, and keeping the learning outcomes and the pedagogy, even the assessment. So what I feel that the involvement of experts, those who are expertised in curriculum making, curriculum designers, is of course an important role. The involvement of these people should be there, so that they can manage the domains of learning and knowledge within while deciding the curriculum. So since they are more expertised and experienced, so they can be a good guide, or we can say the facilitator in deciding. And on the common platform, we can decide some key concepts which should be included, keeping the 21st century skills, which will help the concepts to develop those skills. So hence, I feel that collaborative approach will help, and they can help out to design such a syllabus. It can be just an open talk or a charcha. Nowadays, it is very much into like Pariksha Pe Charcha is also going on. Same way, the charcha can definitely, a two-way collaborative approach can help to set up the syllabus.
Thank you so much, Smita ma'am. The first 3 minutes are over. So I'll try to summarize and take forward the points that you made. That teens, as of now, are the biggest disruptors. When you talk of the entrepreneurship space, they disrupt everything. They're building products, they're solving actual real life problems, and they're actually making scalable startups. So when they're taking on the real life challenges, why not give them a chance to be a part of decision making in syllabus? Not if we say in the complete decision making of the syllabus, but at least some kind of an interference or some kind of, you can say some kind of intrusion that we let them have in the syllabus decision making process. Teachers now have become guides. Now, since you're at par with the student, that is where this becomes even more critical, because he has the authority to question. When he has the authority to question, let's give him more sensible stuff to question. Rather than just questioning authority, let him give some more sensible stuff that he could question on. And I think a very important observation that you made, that this very activity of deciding their own life path will make them active learners much, in advance in comparison to the current generation that becomes an active learner after their higher education is completed. So that's a very important thing that this will kick in, that this will give them the opportunity that, okay, whatever you're deciding will impact your life, and they would typically get transformed into an active learner soon. So thank you so much, ma'am. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Mrs. Kiran Dalal, the principal of Bright Scholar Senior Secondary School from Sonipat, Haryana. Kiran ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much. I must appreciate the efforts of Blub, and this is my second chance to join this conference like this. And the decisions that we are doing, the discussion that is being done, that is about when the teens should be allowed in important decision of syllabus. Syllabus, this is something, it's as everyone is talking about, all the principals, all the people who are there on this panel, they are talking about it, that it's a universal thing. One child cannot have a different syllabus, the other one cannot have a different syllabus. Self-style learning is very important. But then there has to be something common. And this common, if the children are well informed, they are given the information about what contents are there, they can design, pedagogy they can design, the path they can design, they can devise the path to reach up to that goal. But aim and the content, common content, has to be similar. There has to be something which is, so this can be, we can call democracy under control. So we inform them, we give them the freedom, but still they are under control, and accordingly they can devise and design the path, taking into consideration what is the focus, what is the aim of learning, what should be the learning outcome. So accordingly, within the framed structure, they can be given some freedom to design something, and even put up their suggestions that this part should be included, this should have more weightage, that should have less weightage, because assessment again has to be done commonly. And so similarly, when they have to go, it's not only that they have to survive here. Now it's a world, it's global. So everyone is connected. Once they step out of the country, once they step out of their own school, they are in the world, and they have to survive in that world only. Accordingly, if they do only self-study or something which is designed by themselves, then it's different. But at a broader scale, we can have, as very rightly suggested, that we can have teens, we can have these grown-ups into a committee which sits together, and they have a say to design the syllabus. Of course, they should be given the liberty, they should be given right to speech and express their own choices. So that's a good idea, that they should be given choice, but unless until they're well informed, they know where to go, what, and they will, of course, they'll become more responsible, they will become more accountable. Suppose I'm choosing something for myself, they have the freedom to choose the subjects, syllabus, subjects in class 11 and 12. Similarly, if they've chosen something, then naturally they'll be more accountable and they'll do well. They will become more well informed and better learners, I believe. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So let me try to summarize what you said, that pedagogy is something that they can decide on, not on the syllabus, not on the curriculum specifically, but to put it very simply, let them decide the process of the teaching learning, but the aims or the targets have to be similar, so that when we assess, there is some common ground where everything comes together. And I think you divided it very well, that let it be a controlled democracy, let it not be an absolute one. Let's put some kind of a filter to it, so that they get control, but not as much that they decide everything everywhere. So thank you so much, ma'am. We have actually listened to all the speakers for once on the topic that can we really give that power to teenagers? And the common ground that's coming out of this discussion till now is that let's give them control into execution, but not control on the targets or the aim. Now let's get into the second part of the discussion, that if we really give them the control for pedagogy, before we go into that section, I'll share an example. Some days back, one of the school leaders who was there with us, he has been practicing the model of an absolute democratic school for the last 8 years. Every year, they create a student council that actually decides the school rules, that decides the school penalties, that decides the kind of period timings, the sports period. They are in sync with the complete decision making of the school. So do we think that this kind of a setup can function, or this is bound to collapse at some or the other point? So over to all of you. Anyone from you can just unmute and share your thoughts. The time limit again remains that of 3 minutes. So it's an open floor now.
I would like to, quote a small example. What happened in our school is we had Find Your Voice is what we also have Student Government Council, and they do work closely with management. So we have come up with how do we listen to each voice of the student in the school. So we brainstormed with the student government, and they have come up with a certain pattern to be followed. Since now we are all tech savvy, thanks to pandemic, they have come with, Google survey form. So what to be given, even we have created a mail ID, which will only go to the student government. Now, it is not accessible to the principal as well as the leadership team in the school. So they are free to express whatever they would like to hear, or they what kind of events they want, or what kind of rules they want, and what kind of it's a plain platform for them to express what they want to. So at least when you are giving that opportunity, students feel that their belonging to the school will increase and ownership will increase. So that's one thing. And also zero tolerance policy is what is being created by the students. Like how in terms of mental health, definitely it's important how we can avoid teasing or bullying, all these things. So where we need to put a full stop to that. So it is completely given freedom to these students to come up with the policy. So I hope to see a better future.
I feel that Sailaja ma'am is also on the same page as all of us. What basically ma'am has been, this is what I understand, Sailaja ma'am, that you talk about choice in terms of activities and the pedagogical structure. You are certainly not talking about the product, you're only talking about the process. Because I believe in a country like India, and this, I think one of the respectable speakers did mention that the product has to be very similar, otherwise we will not have that common benchmark. But yes, the process can vary, and I really appreciate the way you have given a vent to children and their voices, because having something which is completely exclusively controlled by children and the sense of agency they would get when they know that their voices are being heard, and yet it is not being controlled by the top leadership, is a matter of privilege. And I think many schools can pick up that idea. That's really good. Having said that, it's just that all of us, I think, just want to talk, because probably that kind of a system which almost exists, I believe it exists in Finland, and that is the reason why the education policy was a big success there, because there was a lot of freedom and flexibility. But to exercise that kind of freedom and choice in a country like India, where we have multiple boards, millions of students studying at various levels, because the boards also don't follow the same pattern, although the NCF is wanting to have a similar structure, it is yet to form a shape. So in that situation, giving them the choice to decide the product would be a little far-fetched. Yes, the process can, because the more you give them the freedom to choose the path, the better it is. They might stumble, but we are there to guide them. However, the product has to be, I think the finish line has to be in vision. And that is why I just want to know, and I'm very curious to know, Daksh, why you mentioned that you have a difference of opinion when it comes to vision crisis.
I really endorse the points raised by Sailaja ma'am. At the same time, I will start from where Poornima ma'am has left. See, new education policy emphasizes on equity, inclusion, and diversity. And India being such a diversified country, where you have plenty of IB board, we have IB board, we have this CBSE, then state boards. Definitely, there has to be one board, so that some kind of uniformity is maintained. Number one. Now, second, 21st century skills, they talk about decision making, problem solving. If we want our kids to be part of that, so it is very important that from grassroots level we give them a power to decide, so that they do not come up as a problem creators, rather they come up as a problem solution finders. So this could definitely happen when we give them some kind of a voice is heard, when we give them a platform where they become part of the decision making. And of course, their commitment, they would be more responsible, there would be less bullying, because the decision has been made by them. So when they are coming up with their own rules, they will always shy of breaking them. So this definitely some kind of controlled democracy, as one of the speakers have put up very aptly, should be given to the students, because they are ultimately going to be the nation builders. But yes, some kind of authority, some kind of check, some kind of monopoly, even the institution and the people at the helm of the affairs need to keep it with them to ensure that the things are working in the right direction. And lastly, one and most important thing is there is always a difference in the thought process, thought pattern of the teenagers and when they are adults. When it comes to the students at the college level, there they can have more freedom, they could have more liberty, but as compared to the students at the school level, teenagers, their mind is like monkey, which keeps on drifting and shifting from one time to another time, from one thing to another thing. So they get swayed, they get carried away, making applications, taking risks to act as an entrepreneur is something else, but you cannot risk their lives by just giving them free autonomy to decide their own syllabus. They can decide the pace, they can decide the content they want to study, but not the entire syllabus. So I rest my voice with this. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. So before we actually go into the discussion, Poornima ma'am actually pointed out a very important thing. Why I as an individual, am hell bent on giving the kind of autonomy to these teenagers. There's a very small anecdote that I would like to share with all of you. The most successful conqueror ever on the face of this earth had his major career span when he was a teenager. I'm talking about Alexander the Great. We work on a very simple idea as a publication. We try to find out stories of teenagers who are doing amazing work and try to showcase their stories through our publications, through our magazines. And the idea is simple: teens inspiring teens. And when we have talked to so many teenagers, we've been doing this since 2014, and by now we have talked to thousands and thousands of teens. And every day, that's the kind of stories that come to us. And while we talk to them, what we have understood is the challenge is that we have to do mass education. The challenge is not that the teenager is not capable. The teenager is capable of taking even the decision for the vision. He is somebody who can define a definite finish line for everyone. He can be a part of decision making for benchmarking as well. The problem is we cannot put such a mechanism when we have to do mass education. When we have to teach so many people, we don't have an efficient mechanism. And since we don't have an efficient mechanism, we cannot put it on the teenager that, no, you're not capable enough, so you cannot decide. So because
I will add to it, Daksh here. Actually, the thing is, our ecosystem is not still ready for that.
Absolutely. You're very right in this. Just 2 days back, we had a school leader in the last WebTalk, I think, from Finland itself. They are right now practicing, education, learning on smartphones. They allow smartphones within their classes. And every day, that's the way they teach. So what I simply want to put forth, and the reason why this topic was actually chosen is that let's try to find out ways that the education ecosystem within the country matures. Because if we really want to make it mature, you have to give the decision making to peers. Because till now, when we as Indians look at any format, any structure, we try to find authority in it. We don't try to find our peers in it. And I think that limits us a lot. We need to think a lot on this, that can a peer controlled system actually work? I'll give the example that I was giving, that a school is actually practicing it for the last 8 years. You will be surprised to know teenagers make more strict rules than adults. They are far more strict with their peers than we are with them. We have some amount of empathy. They don't. They don't empathize.
Daksh,
Yes, ma'am, please.
I'd like to put in my voice here, like what Neeraj said. Actually, not just the ecosystem. Our problem is, see, if we have a very if we have a limited population, giving them the decision power is certainly not a difficult task. But again, going back to the system where Japan follows, when right from a very young age, they make children responsible. By till grade 4, if I'm not mistaken, there is nothing called a syllabus. There's nothing called a proper curriculum. Their curriculum completely focuses on character formation. And once that is done, then you give that part of decision making to them. Believe me, they will do wonders. It is not that any of us, if I'm not mistaken, none of us really undermine the capacity or the power of the children. What we are focusing on is the system in which we exist. And yes, to a certain extent, what you said will never leave us. The authoritarian attitude or the mindset that we house we will take a long time to shed that. But for us to sort of delete it from our life systems and for children to start taking over, there has to be some bridge. If once the system gets bridged, that is, once we start focus more on character formation, like what happens in Japan, unlike in India, where there are jokes where children right in the womb start getting enrolled in those engineering colleges and medical colleges, or their parents start getting palpitations where to get their children enrolled in schools. From that system, from that mindset, if we are shifting to character formation, then this big onus of decision making can be left to them. And you're not wrong when you say children are far more harsher on themselves than the adults. But you again go back to that school where the school has a very strong system in place. They probably do not have their parents interfering. They've been very clear with their system that in our school, it's just us and the children. When the children are given so much authority and they know the flip side of misusing it, then believe me, they come up with wondrous work. But this can again, whatever you've seen happens in pockets. If it has to happen en masse, then the system has to change. So it's not that any of us are, dinosaurs in the system. It's just that we do want, I mean, all of us would love to see children, because we know the power the children house in them. And the last 2 years, of course, after the technology, the technology having caught us not on a wrong foot, rather on the right foot in a very big way. I'm sure there is so much that even we can do. We never knew we could do so much. Could we ever imagine holding online talks like this 2 years before? We never had all those things. Now we do it. So there is a time and space for things to fall into place. This is what I feel.
Absolutely, ma'am. Point very well taken. That what you talked about, that the school that has been following the practice, they have a very strong system in place on character building. Because I think it's very well evident in Indian ecosystem. If you read Panch Parmeshwar, the Premchand story, that simply tells that when you make somebody give that kind of decision making to create legislation, to create rules, to do some stuff, the most important element is character building. And do we have a formalized structure of character building? And then we can give them that decision making. I think Kiran ma'am wants to add something. Ma'am, over to you.
Yeah, Dhruv, I just wanted to say, see, once we practice this, and it's a regular practice. I give chance to the students to set up their own question papers, and that is for annual exams. Many a times we give them the authority. We make a group of students. They set up the question paper in one subject. Sometimes we keep changing the subjects. So they are given the authority and they set up the question paper. They make the blueprint. They make the marking scheme. Everything they do. So we give them this type of authority, and they become very responsible. And believe me, till date, no question paper has been leaked. The other children do not know which questions are being said. As teacher said, they rightly said that when they work with peers, they become more authoritative. They become more responsible and accountable. They do it so beautifully. So when we start giving them chances, this character building also starts. We are strengthening their values. So we can practice these small little things with smaller classes. Right from class 5, 6, 7, 8, we can start this type of practice. And I believe the day is not far off when they'll take more of many of the responsibilities with honesty and integrity. And that cannot be doubted. We cannot doubt their talents. So this is what I wanted to add. This is a personal experience that I
in this subcontinent like India, which is too diversified, as even Poonam ma'am was saying. So here the problem even changes within 1 kilometer's radius also.
Correct.
The challenges which my institution is facing, another institution within 1 kilometer will be having different, because it's different demography. So it varies. When you talk about the advanced metro tier 1 cities, so definitely the parents are more educated, they are highly advanced. Accordingly, the raising of the kids is also being done. And there are some places in India which are so remotely located that people do not know what career exactly is. So definitely it is challenging, and it keeps on varying from place to place.
I have one point to share here, because we did this project graduation, which we have asked students, whatever you have learned across the year, present what you know. This was the title we have given, and asked them to do, you can do a web talk, or you can have a blog, or you can have a website, build whatever we know. Initially, they were so frustrated that, ma'am, why don't you give a question paper? We'll just finish writing it. I said, no, you do whatever you like to show, do it. So, but then the moment they realized the beauty of, selecting the understanding pieces, then when I asked them at the end reflection, ma'am, we knew, how much we can project what we know, but we struggled to define where we need to stop it. The depth of the topic. So that is where I felt, yes, my job is done. They went through such a thorough reflection where they have set their criteria. They have set, the time presentation of the time, and they have shared this criteria with all the parents 2 days in advance. Their product has been shared with the parents. And then when they come for the presentation, they can ask the questions. So it was such in depth. So we decided, this is because out of compulsion, we have done it because of the online learning. But we are carrying forward, because that has got such a wonderful, outstanding work from the students. We decided to go ahead with even now also.
Taking on the same lines, when we talk about how children, how powerful they can be, and how much they have in them, when given an opportunity. Now, during the online period, of course, we had something like a sports day. Imagine sports day online. So what we did was we got them to, in certain cases, it was not easy for us to keep a watch on, their timing and all. So we said, we need your recording done, and we got children to be the judges. and we managed their record feed. For example, even if it's something like a push-up, they had to keep their camera in a certain angle, and there were children who were watching it over, and they managed to do it well. That sports day was a bumper hit because it was a very different thing. Nobody could have ever imagined having a sports day online, somebody keeping a watch on the timing and everything, including the parents, because parents had to make sure that the camera doesn't move because that leads to disqualification. That was one very interesting thing that happened. And again, the sense of agency of judgment was left to children. And secondly, very recently, we had something again. This is some where I was also astonished, to be honest. We had a competition, an inter-school competition, and it was the first time that our city introduced something like design thinking. And we wanted, we even like all, we are also learning what design thinking is. So we thought, okay, what exactly, how exactly do we bring it about? So we just said that, okay, we should be sharing about some problem, and then we should be thinking about the solution. Now, how do you decide on a solution? Now the children decided the format of the whole competition. They said, okay, what we do is we show them a video. We show the participants a short video, ask them to watch it, ask them to understand, internalize the problem that they see there. And then let's give them computers and let's talk about the app in advance. Let them come prepared with the app. Now using the app, let them design the solution. Believe me, the ones who came, they enjoyed. The ones who administered, they enjoyed. Nothing was leaked out, and this was highly appreciated and something that was new for even teachers and the school authorities. Most principals came back and said this was something which is very different, and all of us should be doing it. In fact, I really prefer everybody trying to do something like this because honestly, I can't take the credit for it. It was not my brain; it was the children's brain. They decided upon this activity. So when we talk about achievements, it's amazing that these children have it. Yet, when we talk about the control part of it, once the setup was ready regarding the computers, regarding the setup, because it's a competition, you can't let it off. So then, the adult had to put in their button, had to get the doors, everything sealed so that nobody plays truant and nobody, the exercise is not a flop one. So that is where I think the final authority is what, again, it's just like, you give, I go back to what I said, that it's like a home environment where you grow in a very free environment, yet you know that you've got to come back home at night. You're free to roam about where you want, but you've got to be disciplined, but at home you will come back to the family. So something on those lines is what I meant.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much. We are nearly at the conclusion of the call, but before this call comes to an end, BlubWorld works on this very simple idea of teens inspiring teens. With so many teen stories coming in, around 2 years back, we felt that there should be an actual institution that gives teenagers some kind of a power. And that's when the World Teen Parliament was born. The World Teen Parliament is a non-profit initiative of the Blub World Foundation, where every year 100 teenagers get elected from all across the world. And these 100 teenagers, we get trained, mentored, and funded at the World Teen Parliament, and they work on their ideas of scaling up. Last year, these 100 MPs, they came into power in January. This year, today is their last parliamentary session, today evening at 7 p.m. And these 100 teenagers have worked on some amazing things. They have done some amazing work. We'll be showcasing that work in some time. The second World Teen Parliament will get elected on 22nd of January 2023, next year. And next year, we're very happy to tell all of you that this year we have got participation from India, US, UK, Australia, South Korea, Spain, Bangladesh, and many, many more countries. And the kind of power that we see within these teenagers is amazing. When we had the first parliamentary session and the guest used to come and address these teenagers, it was fairly simple. But now when the guest comes and speaks at the World Teen Parliament, they ask for questions in advance, because the kind of questions, the kind of problems that these teenagers have put in front of these guests have evoluted like anything. And that's where we actually realize their power. I would like to invite all of you today evening as well. If you have the time, be there with us on the YouTube channel of Blub World for the 12th parliamentary session of the World Teen Parliament. That will be addressed by MP Chandra Arya, who's the current Member of Parliament for Nepean of Canada. He's a Member of Parliament of Canada. He'll be spending an hour with our teen MPs. They'll be asking questions, interacting with him. So the idea is very simple. Let's find ways of creating a peer-controlled ecosystem. It cannot be an adult-controlled ecosystem. It has to be a peer-controlled ecosystem. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of the Blub World Web Talks. This was the 205th episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, and if you're not in the future sessions, open your audio, say a big yes, and thank you so much.